multilateral cooperation, and promote common value. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the President, His Excellency Jose Ramos of Timor-Leste, with a big round of applause.
Your Excellency is the Speaker of the National Assembly of the Republic of Korea, Excellency Prime Minister, Speaker of the House of Representatives of the Republic of the Philippines, the 8th Secretary General of the United Nations, Ban Ki-moon, my former boss. He was my boss twice. And second Vice Minister, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Republic of Korea, Governor and Madam Governor of Jeju Island, Excellencies, distinguished, esteemed delegates, I'm thankful for the kind invitation extended to me to take part in the 18th Jeju Forum for Peace and Prosperity. I've been to Korea in different capacities over many years, and I'm pleased to be back in Jeju, my third visit here. I thank Governor Oh Young-hoon and the people of this splendid island for their generous hospitality. The Jeju Forum has gained reputation as one of the most influential for exchange of views on the challenges of our times, of fast developing regional and global issues, debt crisis, pandemic, sustainable development, digitization, artificial intelligence, renewable energy, green economy, fresh water scarcity, food security, climate change, wars of aggression. We are gathering here to explore alternatives to war, peace, human fraternity. I should first pay tribute to the people of the Republic of Korea, a people I deeply admire. Colonized, invaded, occupied for many decades, the Republic of Korea transitioned from abject poverty to peace and prosperity in only a few decades. With a 5,000-year rich civilization, hardworking, resilient, a very proud people, modern, livable cities, world-class economy, one of the best education and healthcare systems in the world, unrestricted democracy and freedoms, the Republic of Korea stands out globally. Koreans have every reason to be proud of the dramatic achievements after the total destruction, millions of deaths, and extreme deprivation caused by colonization and occupation, World War II, and the Korean War. Excellencies, COVID-19 pandemic, multiple natural disasters, and the war in Ukraine caused the suffering and impoverishment of hundreds of millions of people, particularly in Asia and Latin America. The impressive gains of the last 20 years on the battle against extreme poverty have been lost. Tens of millions of fellow human beings, including millions of children, were thrown back into the shackles of extreme poverty. Child labor went back up exponentially. Hunger has set in many countries. The rich industrialized countries mobilized hundreds of billions of dollars to rescue European banks in the aftermath of the 2007 and 2008 subprime financial crisis. Billions of dollars were quickly found for Ukraine. However, there has not been similar mobilization to support developing countries shackled by external debt and the tragic consequences of COVID pandemic. ODA, Overseas Development Assistance, which was dramatically reduced following the 2008 financial crisis, has not returned to the previous modest figures. I beg all OECD countries to increase to 1% of their GDP their contributions to ODA. There should be a global write-off of all the debt of the non-mineral and non-oil rich developing countries. Excellencies, in the midst of global turmoil, the senseless war in Myanmar, waged by the military dictatorship against its own people, the ongoing wars in Ukraine, Syria, Libya, Yemen, Afghanistan, Mali, Sudan, and the natural disasters occurring almost daily everywhere, I am pleased to say my country, Timor-Leste, is a lighthouse, a port of safety, a twinkling light of peace and fraternity. While in Myanmar, the military are waging a brutal war against its own people, in neighboring Thailand and Timor-Leste, free and democratic elections were held very recently. I wholeheartedly congratulate the people of Thailand for their successful general elections and for the landslide victory of Move Forward Party led by the Honorable Peter Lanja Ruenplat. On 21st May, about 80% of our voters went to the polls to cast their vote for the party and leaders of their choice. 17 political parties competing in the 21st May parliamentary election. The election was hailed by national and international observers as very peaceful, orderly, free, and transparent. Clear winner is the CNRP party led by Mr. Kairala Shanar Guzman, our most revered elder statesman, father of the nation. We cherish our young, vibrant democracy, for which the Republic of Korea has made significant contribution. During the period September 1999 to October 2003, a total of 3,212 Korean peacekeepers served in Timor-Leste. 5 of them lost their lives in 2003 in a tragic river storm while serving in our country under the UN. Last year, I welcomed in the Presidential Palace family members of the brave soldiers of peace and honored them. Excellencies, democracy might not be the only legit reform of government, but a government freely chosen by the people with respect for fundamental human rights as enshrined in all democratic constitutions of the world, with guaranteed right to dissent that protects the sanctity of life, guarantees access to justice, education, and health, remains the best form of government. The Economist magazine Democracy Index rates Timor-Leste as the most democratic country in Southeast Asia. And the Freedom House classifies it as free. World Freedom Index places Timor-Leste in number 10 position globally. We are an island of peace, tranquility, tolerance, and inclusion. Political violence, ethnic and religious-based tensions, and exclusion are absent from our daily life. Our 98% practicing Catholics live side by side in harmony and fraternity with our brothers and sisters of the other 2 recognized religions in our country, Protestants and the Muslims, who account for 2% of our population. While voting, our people displayed kindness, such as helping the elderly, women with children, and people with disabilities to move to the front of the queue. Once ballots were in, thousands of citizens across the country crowded into open-air buildings despite the heat to watch the votes being counted. Excellencies, many of us from conflict countries know too well that ending conflicts, restoring peace, reconcile divided communities, unite the nation, and govern peacefully is never easy. Some believe in the security approach, the use of force to deter and quell dissent and conflicts. From day one of independence, we opted for dialogue to resolve disputes through patient listening, humility, empathy, intelligence, tact, restraint, and forgiveness. For countries and communities involved in years of conflict, one path to peace and stability is dialogue, reconciliation, and forgiveness. We know that for many victimized families and communities with deep scars of wars and the violence in their body and heart, the words reconciliation and forgiveness can be offensive. The strength and motivation to reconcile with former enemies and forgive has to be found within ourselves. and only wise and inspirational leaders can help heal the wounds of the soul, inspire and help communities to free themselves from the shackles of conflict and anger. Timor-Leste has its fragilities and the residual anger that we are still addressing now. But we do not have a political, ethnic, or religious-based violence, no revenge killing, no arbitrary imprisonment and killing of past political choices. We have an exemplary relationship with all our whatever the nature of past relationships, good and bad. We are able to have these relationships because we have put the past history value behind us, built mutual respect and trust, and developed active bilateral cooperation. The multi-ethnic, multi-religious Indonesia, spread over several time zones and thousands of islands, is an inspiring example for the world. Its journey from dictatorship to democracy was a bumpy one in the beginning, but in a very short span of time, it emerged as a dynamic, multi-part democracy, a tolerant, inclusive, and increasingly prosperous country, a recognized regional power. Myanmar military should learn from the rich experiences of the Democratic Republic of Korea, Thailand, Philippines, Indonesia, democratic transition from dictatorship to flourishing democracy, harmony, and prosperity. I hope for the day when the Tatmadaw emulates the inspiring lessons of its own neighbors. Excellencies, membership in ASEAN is a strategic goal for us. ASEAN membership, regional economic integration, peace, and inclusive prosperity is not only a foreign policy priority, it is very much a pillar of our national life and agenda. Timor-Leste participated for the first time in a summit of ASEAN leaders held in Labuan Bajo, Indonesia, marking a new chapter in our country's history as we reach important milestones in our long journey towards regional integration. Timor-Leste is now an observer state with the right to participate in all ASEAN meetings, including summits. ASEAN leaders approved the roadmap for Timor-Leste formal accession at the 11th ASEAN Member State Summit. Formal admission as the 11th member state may occur as we implement key milestones. The adoption by ASEAN leaders of an objective criteria-based roadmap for our full membership enable us to move progressively with sufficient time towards full membership in the near future. Timor-Leste is firmly committed to undertake national policy and regulatory reforms, enhance human resource development, invest in strategic infrastructure that creates new opportunities for our economy, addresses common regional challenges in a spirit of cooperation and mutual respect. This will ensure that our membership benefits not only our country but the region as a whole. Timor-Leste and ASEAN member states share common interests in promoting durable peace and sustainable development through active cross-regional strategies encompassing socio-cultural and economic dimensions. Integration into ASEAN provides opportunities for Timor-Leste to realize our strategic development goals, investing in strategic pillars that will significantly improve health, education, and quality of life for our people. For the implementation of the roadmap, in particular enhancing the pool of human resources, we're grateful as we continue to count on the active support of ASEAN member states and partners like Republic of Korea, Japan, China, Australia, New Zealand, the US, UK, Portugal, the EU. Dozens of Timorese officials are now undergoing capacity building in Indonesia. Singapore has launched a comprehensive plan to train up to 800 Timorese officials. We express our deep appreciation to all ASEAN member states and external partners who have launched capacity building programs for Timorese officials covering a wide range of development. Excellencies, while Asia continues to lead the world in growth and prosperity, dark clouds hang over our region, ranging from extreme poverty and inequality exacerbated by COVID-19 pandemic, man-made climate change, the war initiated by Russia against its neighbor Ukraine, food chain and international trade disruptions, commodity prices, inflation, external debt, nuclear proliferation, North Korea, South China Sea, Taiwan. The situation in North Korea remains unchanged over the times. Millions of human beings are deprived of basic human rights and hostages of the totalitarian regime. In the meantime, I believe that the much desired denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, for which many have tirelessly labored over decades, will remain an unattainable goal. I would add more clearly, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea does possess nuclear weapons. DPRK is already an armed nuclear power, and I don't see how a totalitarian nuclear power would willingly dismantle its arsenal. Having said that, I submit to help keep the peace in the Korean Peninsula and foster peace and prosperity in the world, China and the US must re-engage at summit level. I agree that a strategic competition is inevitable, normal, to be expected even between friends. Peace in the Korean Peninsula and the wider region should outweigh differences in other areas of competition and rivalry between the two superpowers. To help keep the peace in the region, the three Northeast Asian powers, China, Japan, and Republic of Korea, should continue their mutually beneficial exchanges, expand trade and investment, expand people-to-people contacts, and find ways to overcome the bitter legacies of the past. South China Sea should be declared a zone of peace and cooperation, free of permanent military facilities, and all must observe the provisions of UNCLOS on exclusive economic zones. To keep the peace in the region, outside powers should refrain from making statements or taking actions in regards to Taiwan that are considered provocative and contrary to the clearly established reality of one China policy. The US and China must manage their economic trade, scientific, technological, and influence-seeking competition so as not to weaken themselves as credible deterrents and the guarantors of peace and stability in Asia and beyond. China, the region's superpower, whose extraordinary rise as a global power was made possible through peace with its neighbors in the world. Its global expansion based on open skies and open seas, based on a world of rules of trade and freedom of navigation, should be in the forefront supporting a strengthened international rules-based order. The same is to be said of the US. It should work to revitalize WTO and strengthen multilateralism. We can all applaud unilateral imposition of sanctions only when the UN Security Council fails to sanction a country that violates UN Charter and international law on non-use of force, or when the Security Council fails to take action against a regime that perpetrates war crimes and crimes against humanity. But as a principle, unilateral sanctions of any nature should be discontinued and should not be applied as a political tool. Conversations held annually at the Forum for Peace and Prosperity in Jeju Island, the island of peace, help us visualize path to peace. This forum, now in its 18th year, is driven by a central mission to build peace in East Asia by facilitating a multilateral dialogue on diplomacy and security. Since its inception, the discussions and topics have expanded to encompass a wide region wide range of relevant and important themes and talks worth having. Peace is rarely, if ever, negotiated quickly. It takes careful planning, faith, perseverance, and dialogues like this one we are having here this weekend. I thank you and God bless us all.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for your kind word, encouraging our journey toward peace starting here in Jeju. And also, yes, thank you very much once again for your remarkable message. We are so pleased that he has a special bond with our Korean honorable guest, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, and Jeju as well. Thank you very much once again. For our next stage, we'll be introducing a respected figure of world peace who partakes in various peace movements. Your Excellencies and ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the 8th Secretary General of United